The emergency beacon pierced through the violet atmosphere of Cathara 7 like a needle through silk. Lucas checked his scanner for the third time in as many minutes, his jaw tightening with each passing second. Still no movement, he reported to the search team scattered across the fungal forest. Susan's beacon hasn't shifted position in 47 minutes. Through his helmet's display, he could see the concern mirrored in the faces of his Catharan colleagues. To them, stillness meant death. Their entire evolutionary history had been written in motion. Run or be eaten, chase or starve. The concept of voluntary immobility was as alien to them as their triple-jointed legs were to him. She must be injured, hissed Vrax, the team leader, her copper-scaled crest flaring with agitation. No sentient being simply stops moving in a Class 4 predator zone. Lucas bit back his response. He'd worked with Susan long enough to know better. 49 minutes earlier, Susan had been conducting a routine geological survey when she'd heard them, the soft mewling cries that transcended species barriers. She'd found the source quickly. 2 Catharan cubs, no larger than house cats, huddled beneath a phosphorescent shelf fungus. Their scales were still soft, barely hardened, and their eyes held that universal look of juvenile terror. She'd scanned the area immediately. No adult Catharans within a kilometer. The cubs were utterly lost. Susan had seen enough nature documentaries to know the rule: don't touch the babies. But she'd also spent enough time in xenobiology to know that Catharans weren't Earth predators. Their young didn't carry scent markers that would cause parental rejection. The real danger was simpler. If she moved, the cubs might scatter in panic and become truly unrecoverable. So Susan did what any sensible human would do in the situation. She sat down. The cubs had frozen at her approach, instinct telling them to remain perfectly still before the alien creature. But when Susan lowered herself to the ground, crossed her legs, and simply waited, their small minds struggled to process the behavior. Predators didn't sit. Prey didn't sit. Everything in their young lives had been about motion, following their parents through the endless chase that was Catharan existence. But this strange, soft-skinned being just sat there, like a boulder, like a tree, like something permanent. After 5 minutes, the bolder of the 2 cubs crept forward. Susan remained motionless, her breathing slow and steady. The cub touched her boot with one tentative claw, then jumped back. Nothing happened. Susan didn't move. 10 minutes in, both cubs were circling her, curiosity overcoming fear. 15 minutes in, the smaller one had climbed onto her lap, its tiny claws pricking through her suit as it tried to understand what this creature was made of. Susan activated her beacon. Help would come. She just had to wait. There. Vrax's sensor spiked with activity. 300 meters northeast, multiple Catharan signatures converging on the human's position. Adult-sized. We need to move now. The search team bounded through the forest with the liquid grace of their species, covering ground that would have taken Lucas twice as long. When they burst into the clearing, weapons raised, they froze. Susan sat cross-legged on the ground, utterly relaxed. 2 cubs were curled in her lap, apparently asleep, and surrounding her in a loose circle were 7 adult Catharans, wild ones, their scales scarred from territorial battles, their claws unsheathed. None of them were attacking. They were staring at Susan with the same confused fascination as the cubs, heads tilted at that peculiarly reptilian angle that suggested complete bewilderment. "Don't shoot," Susan said calmly, not moving. "They're just trying to figure me out." "The cubs," Vrax began, "got lost about an hour ago. I found them, sat down so they wouldn't run, and waited. These folks showed up about 10 minutes ago. I'm guessing they're the parents and the rest of the family unit." Lucas watched in amazement as one of the largest adults, presumably the mother, crept forward. She moved with the jerky caution of a creature whose every instinct was screaming danger, but whose maternal drive was stronger. She reached Susan, sniffed the cubs carefully, then made a low chirping sound. The cubs stirred and scrambled off Susan's lap, tumbling toward their mother with happy squeaks. The mother gathered them close, then did something Lucas had never seen a wild Catharan do. She bowed her head toward Susan. "It's okay," Susan said softly. "They're good kids. You should probably keep a closer eye on them, though. This forest isn't safe." As if understanding, or perhaps just satisfied that her young were unharmed, the mother turned and bounded away, her family streaming behind her. Within seconds, the clearing was empty except for the search team and one very calm human. Vrax approached slowly, her scales rippling with emotions Lucas couldn't quite read. "You sat down," she said, as if testing the words in her mouth. "For an hour. In a predator zone. With lost cubs." Susan stood, brushing fungal spores off her suit. "Well, yeah. If I'd moved, they might have run. If they'd run, they could have gotten more lost or hurt. And if I'd picked them up and carried them, the parents might have attacked thinking I was abducting them. So I sat down and let them come to me, let them get comfortable, and waited for their family to find us. But the predators," Vrax started. "The cubs were the bait," Lucas said suddenly, understanding flooding through him. Susan made herself part of the cubs' space. She became a fixture, something harmless. When the adults arrived, they saw a non-threat sitting with their children. If she'd been standing, moving, acting like a predator or prey, they would have attacked. Susan shrugged. "Patience is a survival trait where I come from. Sometimes the best thing a human can do is absolutely nothing." Vrax was silent for a long moment, her inner eyelids blinking slowly. "Your species," she said finally, "is very strange." Susan smiled. "We know. Come on, I've got core samples to collect." As they headed back toward the base camp, Lucas glanced back at the clearing. In the dirt where Susan had sat, he could see the small claw prints of the cubs, circling endlessly around a single, motionless point. Sometimes he thought, the most human thing you could do was simply sit down and let the universe come to you.